ask you first, because you're a folk musician, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I was going to ask you about the new Bob Dylan movie, and it's kind of... Have you seen it?
It's amazing.
It's good, okay, cool. And it's kind of... I don't know, for me and, like, my circle, everyone seems to be, like, really into folk music now, and it's really cool to see, and it must be really nice for you to see that kind of discovery or rediscovery. So I wanted to know if that kind of feels the same for you.
Absolutely. Do you know, we went to see it, myself and Sean, and we took his dad and we took our twin teenagers who are 17, one of whom is massively into Bob Dylan, one of whom just went because it was Timothée Chalamet. But all of us came out of it absolutely on high because of the portrayal of the music was so good. And I think it reminded us why we like that kind of music in the first place. And it really opened our daughter's eyes to the fact that actually, yeah, although we might all seem quite uncool to them, the music's really great. The music speaks for itself. And it's a different, everyone, you go through phases of your life where you want music that you can dance to. You want music that kind of reflects what you're going through at a particular period of life. But then actually, sometimes you like to have music where you really want to listen to the lyrics and you want to find something that you can connect to, or whether it's that gives you kind of a sense of history of maybe the really old folk songs. You kind of get a sense of where this country's been, where we might be going, or it can just make you feel quite, I don't know, I guess it's maybe slightly more insular. You have to listen, you have to really listen to get the most out of music like that. And we loved Complete Unknown. It was so good.
It was really good.
It was inspiring and good to kind of have a reminder of what a great songwriter he is. And with those kind of links back to the folk scene.
Silence of the water and earth.
So on that kind of, it's such a broad question, but what does folk music mean to you? I mean, it's been part of your life for like most of your life, so yeah, what does it mean to you?
Well, I grew up being taken to folk festivals and folk clubs and things. I remember falling asleep under pub tables listening to rooms full of people singing. So it has been a part of my life forever. But I think what really appeals to me is their stories. I like stories, and pretty much certainly every traditional song is telling some kind of a story. They tend to be less about broken hearts and relationships and love, and more about telling a good story, whether it's a kind of a situation, a working situation, or myths and legends. I love getting into all of those. They just I don't know, they just interest me. I like the fact that there's a real wide range of subject matter, I suppose. So it's not like you would put on a folk album and every song would be about one thing. Pretty much every song is its own little independent, almost like a mini film. Whenever I listen to something, I can kind of picture it happening at the same time. It's the best. It's the only way I can remember lyrics is to run a little film reel in my head of what's going to happen next.
So I wanted to talk to you about when you were touring in the US and how amazing that must have been, and just like so much adrenaline. And compared to that, now touring, like playing gigs in Halifax, do you still get the same buzz for it, or is it just a different kind of excitement?
It is different, just in the fact that I'm older, I've done it for longer, and I've had a wider range of experience. So when we used to tour in America, I was in my early 20s, and I had bags of energy, and we could do that thing where we drive for 10 hours, do a gig, drive for another 10 hours, do a gig, repeatedly. And we did used to drive such a lot. Our agent over there was afraid of flying, so he would never book us on planes. So we drove the length of the country. But that's the way you get to see something, and you experience being somewhere properly. So it was amazing for that. We got to visit so many bits of America that we wouldn't have gone to as tourists. You wouldn't necessarily visit those areas. And that was brilliant. So I loved doing that. But it was intense. We'd go for 3 months at a time and basically not stop. People are not as used to traveling to go to a gig as they are in America. People think nothing of driving 3 hours to just pop out and get some milk in some areas in America. Whereas here, if you're within an hour's drive of a gig, that kind of works for people.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I think on reflection, I've enjoyed both experiences. I don't think I couldn't tour like we used to tour now. I haven't got the stamina or the energy. And it's nice when we tour, when Sean and I go out on the road, because we're married and we're also best friends and we work together. It's really nice. It's just a nice experience. We kind of potter around the UK and visit some really lovely places and get to play music, and we get to hang out together, which is really nice. I know working with your partner is not for everybody. Not everyone would like the idea of it even, but it really works for us. It means that's part of why I enjoy going on tour. It's a shared experience. Yeah. It's great.
Do you have any of your fondest memories from the tours in the early days?
Yeah, but kind of, there are always little snippets. I tend to find every gig we do has got something amazing about it, and it could be a tiny little thing, but one that really stuck in mind was playing in Los Angeles, right downtown, and we played in this kind of big plaza, but it was surrounded by skyscrapers. And for someone who, we live down on Dartmoor, which is very rural where we live, and it's very quiet and really calm, and to suddenly be in this completely different environment was quite mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. But I loved it. But then equally, we've played tiny little places in the UK that, in fact, I remember playing one somewhere in just in the Forest of Dean, so just north of Bristol, to the left a little bit. Okay. And it was not even on the map. And we drove in and just found this village over a hill, and it was all misty and lights shining, and we were told afterwards to be careful of the wild boar. it just those completely different experiences. They're brilliant, and it doesn't matter. We've discussed over the years, it doesn't matter whether you're playing to 1,000 people or 10 somewhere. There's still something to be gained from it. You're trying really hard to make a connection and try and give people a nice evening.
It's the silence of birds and the breath of the air.
Okay, so we always try and focus on because we are a grassroots venue at the Grayston Unity, try and kind of focus on that community and everything. So what would you say the grassroots community means to you?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything, certainly for the folk scene, but for us as well, because it's a really different experience to be in a room with other people, quite up close and personal. I tend to, and the style of music and the gig that we do is quite intimate. It's quite, like I said earlier, there's a lot of story-based songs, and we like to kind of be approachable, I suppose, and hope that people can understand where we come from, why we play the music we do, what we like to write about, why we like to do things. And I think when you're in that kind of grassroots venue, you have that opportunity. Because you're not separated by massive lights and a big, huge stage, and you're miles away from your audience. You tend to be a bit closer by, and it's really special. It is really special. Yeah. I like it myself. If I'm going to a gig, I like to be close enough to be able to see a person taking a breath, mm-hmm. and you actually feel part of it. Something really personal, and don't get me wrong, I love going to big gigs as well. Mm-hmm. We took our girls this this year we went to see Taylor Swift.
Oh, nice.
And we went to Glastonbury. We played at Glastonbury and took them with us. So in the crowd for Coldplay, and I love the vibe of all that. It's amazing, but it's such a different feeling to a small. And I think as well, when you're in a smaller kind of grassroots venue, there's a higher chance that members of the audience are going to know each other as well.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of an opportunity for people to actually come together and have a bit of a catch-up. And it becomes a social thing, which music should be, I think. It should be accessible and yeah, a real nice thing for everyone to join in with.
Felt you there, it was louder than all words ever were.